Good morning. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Mark. This is Spiguyver Backpacking. This morning what I wanted to talk with you guys about is kind of on my hunt for the perfect winter shoe. So, I'm kind of new, returning to true winter conditions where there's actually snow and conditions that I have to worry about keeping my feet warm and dry. And so I reached out to pretty much the community and said, hey, what should I be looking for in a shoe for winter? And I got a lot of different responses. I got a wide variety of responses, actually. Quite a few people actually said I should just look at Gore-Tex trail runners. I wasn't sure that was the route I wanted to go. I wanted to make sure that my feet stayed a little bit warmer, and so I looked more towards some of the boots. Devin from Backcountry Exposure has spoken extremely highly about the Keen boots, and so ultimately, after trying on some Obos, some Morels, a few different brands, I decided that the Keens actually felt the most comfortable to me and felt pretty good on the foot. Just felt like a good solid boot. So I used those for one trip, and I ended up getting some pretty bad heel blisters. I had broken them in a little bit. I'd walked around, done some short trips prior to going out, but they just didn't have the flexibility or the give that I'm used to and that I was really looking for. So I returned those and I got these. So these are the Hoka Kaha 2s. And first couple of trips I went on with these, I got blisters in a weird spot. So around the heel cup. So where the insole, the stock insole, the one that comes with here, comes to a sharp point right in here. And so on the inside of my foot, right along this edge right here, I got like about an inch long blister on both feet. And so I was thinking I was gonna have to return these. And then I remembered that I had been sent some of these sole wide footbeds, and they're the cork ones. They kind of form to your foot, work really well. And when I compared the Hoka insoles to these are much more rounded, have more of a cup for your heel. So I threw these in, and magically that hot spot, that line went away, and so I was good to go. So these are what I've been rocking for. I've got a little over 100 miles in them right now. So I had about 20 miles prior to going out on this last trip, and so I took them out on the SRT, the Shawangunk Ridge Trail. And these are, so the waterproofness of these is that they are Gore-Tex lined. So they have a Gore-Tex membrane in there that should keep out any amount of water. So when I first started asking the questions on what I should be going to, what kind of shoe I should be looking at, I had mentioned that a lot of people had pointed me towards Gore-Tex. Now, I have used Gore-Tex quite a bit in my past. When I was in the military, we got issued Gore-Tex jackets and Gore-Tex pants that we used. I used them anytime I went up into the mountains, anytime it was raining, anytime working out on the flight line, working on planes, I'd throw it on and stand out there. The problem is, everyone who had them knew that about an hour, maybe an hour and a half into wearing them, if you're in a driving rain, they soaked through. They just did not truly work. And so I haven't had a very high expectation or a very good opinion of Gore-Tex. So when people started saying I should be getting shoes with Gore-Tex, I wasn't really sold. I had worn the Keen boots for that one trip, and that one trip was through some pretty good snow, through up to like 8 inches of snow at times, and my feet stayed warm, my feet stayed dry the entire time. So they have, I believe that the Keen ones were their own proprietary waterproofing, and they seemed to work from what I saw. I mean, it was only 2 days of trudging through snow, but the outsides were completely, the leather was completely saturated and wet. So if they were gonna get wet, they were gonna get wet. My feet got very wet in these. So now that I'm back from the trip, I decided let's do an experiment. So let's take a look at the experiment. What I decided to do was, these are waterproof up to this point right here. So where this gusset is on the tongue, they're waterproof up to that point because they have the membrane inside all the way up to there. And so they're completely waterproof up to here. So as long as you don't step in a puddle that comes up over, or you aren't sweating so bad you're soaking inside, which that's what a lot of people said was, your feet you probably aren't getting wet from Gore-Tex soaking through, you're probably actually getting wet from sweat. And so I was concerned that I was sweating that much in my feet, that my feet were drenched. How do I control that? So I wanted to do an experiment to see, is the Gore-Tex truly keeping out the water? Because I went online, I did a lot of research, I looked at a lot of things, and people said that Gore-Tex is 100% waterproof. That membrane will not leak. That you can stand in a puddle all day long and the water's not gonna seep in. It's only if it comes up over or you're sweating that your feet are truly gonna get wet, that the Gore-Tex membrane will keep the water out. Will it? What do you guys think? Before we get to the experiment, down below, let me know whether or not you think the Gore-Tex membrane is gonna hold up. Let's see. Okay, so let's take a look at the experiment and see how this actually goes. All right, so I put the boot into my sink. You can see right here, it is completely dry. I'm reaching in. Yeah, it's completely dry. It is bone dry at this point. Now, in order to keep it down in the water, I have to actually weigh it down. And first I start with a smart water bottle inside and then an insulated bottle that's full of water on the outside, kind of through the laces. But as the water starts to fill up, I notice that it is floating, so I do actually have to add a little bit more, which you'll see in a little while. I actually added a can of soup to keep it held down. So now I start filling it up with water. Now I'm only gonna fill it just a little ways up. You can see where it is. It is more than an inch below where the gusset opens up on the shoe. So it's low enough that it's not going to spill over. You can clearly see that here. I show you the water line. It is well below any spot where it should be getting into the boot. You can see there is the opening. It's clearly well above. So now it's been in for 1 hour. I set a timer. As soon as the timer went off, I went out, pull the stuff off, and if you notice, when I pull the smart water bottle out, it drips. That's not a good sign. And here's why. That doesn't look good. That doesn't look like something you should have happen out of a pair of waterproof boots, out of waterproof shoes. These are Gore-Tex lined. So the question is, does Gore-Tex work? Well, in this case, it kind of goes with what I have always assumed and have seen firsthand, which is that Gore-Tex does not work. I know there are lots of articles out there that talk about the waterproof properties of Gore-Tex. I firsthand have used several jackets. I have used rain pants. I have used shoes that are Gore-Tex. And I will tell you, Gore-Tex, in my experience, does not work. And I just showed you how badly it does not work. I don't even know what to say at this point. Because I had bought these for the waterproofness as a big part of that, you know, my feet were absolutely soaked every day out hiking on this last trip. I was concerned that it was me sweating in them. And if you look at these, there are some sweat stains here that make me think that it could have been sweat. But it's not. They are not keeping the water out. That Gore-Tex membrane is allowing water straight in. I don't know if it's a flaw with the shoe, a flaw with the membrane, a rip, it not covering everything. Doesn't matter, it isn't working. So these will also be going back, and I'm not exactly sure what I'm gonna do for for my winter shoes going forward. I guess I'm still on the hunt, still looking, still trying to figure it out, but I don't want shoes that, an hour into the hiking through snow, my feet are soaked, which is what I had all week. So 5 days of walking with wet feet. It kind of sucked, especially when you're expecting that your feet are going to stay dry because you bought shoes that are supposed to keep them dry. All right, guys, what is your experience? What have you experienced with Gore-Tex or other waterproof membranes? What have you seen? I want to know. Leave your comments down below. If you have a pair of shoes that have performed really well waterproof-wise in the snow and the wet and the mud, let me know what you're rocking. I really don't want to get into a heavy pair of boots. I want to keep it something that's a little bit lighter and a little bit more nimble. So I'm looking. I'm back to looking. Thanks, guys. I will see you guys down the trail.